Have you ever paused wondering if you should say much or many? Or maybe you get stuck on some versus any? It feels like there are all these tiny, annoying rules you have to memorize. But what if I told you there aren't? That it's really just one simple grammar rule that makes all the others click into place. Seriously. Once you get this one idea, everything else just makes sense. Let's break it down.
This question right here gets to the very heart of the issue. I mean, think about it. We can count dollars, $1, $2, $100. But the word money, we treat it totally differently. So what's going on? Well, that's the exact puzzle we're going to solve today. And trust me, the answer is way simpler than you'd think. So here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this in 4 quick parts. First, we'll get to that core concept I mentioned, the single key that unlocks the whole thing. Then we'll see how it works with everyday words like some and any. After that, we'll look at how to talk about small amounts versus large amounts. And finally, we'll put it all together so you can ask questions perfectly every single time.
All right, let's dive right into the core concept. Because everything, and I really mean everything we're about to talk about, comes right back to this one simple idea. It all has to do with how we think about different types of nouns.
Okay, first up, we've got countable nouns. And just like the name says, these are things you can actually count one by one. They have a singular form, like 1 carrot, and a plural form, like 2 carrots. 1 book, 3 books. 1 friend, many friends. Pretty straightforward, right?
And on the flip side, we have uncountable nouns. These are things you just can't count individually. You know, think about stuff like rice, or tea, or water. You'd never say 1 water, 2 waters. It just sounds wrong. These nouns don't really have a plural form. They just exist as a whole concept.
And this shows the difference perfectly. So on the left, you see pens. You can count them, right? 1, 2, 3 pens. That's a countable noun. Now look at the right, sugar. You don't count each tiny grain, you just think of it as a substance. That's an uncountable noun. And that single difference, is it countable or uncountable? That is the one and only rule you really need to remember. So now that we've got our core rule down, countable versus uncountable, let's put it to the test with 2 of the most common words we use, some and any. So, here's the general deal. We tend to use some for positive sentences, like, I have some ideas. And we use any for negative sentences and questions, like, I don't have any ideas, or do you have any ideas? It's a really reliable pattern, but there is one little twist when it comes to using some in a question. And here's that little exception. When you're offering something to someone or making a request, you can absolutely use some in the question. It just sounds a bit friendlier, more inviting. Do you want some coffee? Is the perfect example. You're not just asking if coffee exists in the world, you're actually offering it. And here is a textbook use of any. There isn't any milk in the fridge. It's a negative statement, so we automatically reach for any, and it works perfectly to show that the amount is 0. It doesn't matter if the noun is countable or uncountable, like milk is here. Okay, so we've got some and any for those kind of vague, unspecified amounts. But what if we want to be a bit more specific? Let's see how our core rule, countable versus uncountable, helps us talk about small and large quantities. For small amounts, it's super clear, and it all goes back to our main rule. We use a few with things you can count, our countable nouns, and we use a little with things you can't count, our uncountable nouns. That's it. So for instance, you'd peek into the fridge and say, oh, there are a few apples. Why a few? Well, because you can count the apples. 1, 2, 3. For a small number of things you can count, we always use a few. And here's the uncountable version. I need a little sugar in my tea. You can't count sugar, so you use a little to talk about a small amount of it. See, that same core rule just keeps on working for us. All right, now let's talk about large amounts. Many is the easy one. It's for things you can count. Many people, many problems. Simple. But much is the tricky one. It goes with our uncountable nouns, but it has a very important restriction. And this is a big one. You really want to avoid using much in a positive sentence. Saying something like, I have much work to do, just sounds off. It's not natural. Instead, we use it in negative sentences, like, I don't have much work to do. If you want to make it positive, you'd say something like, I have a lot of work to do. Just remembering this one little trick will make your English sound so much better. Okay, it is time to put all the pieces together. We get the core concept, we know how to talk about amounts, so now let's use all that to build perfect questions about quantity. And honestly, it really is this simple. To ask about something you can count, you just start your question with how many. And to ask about something you can't count, you start it with how much. Let's think about pens. Can you count them? Yep, of course you can. So they're countable. That means our question has to start with how many. How many pens do you have? It's that direct. And for our uncountable example, water, the question naturally becomes, how much water do you drink a day? And guess what? This brings us all the way back to our very first puzzle. The reason we say how many dollars, but how much money, is because dollars are individual countable things. But money is an abstract, uncountable idea. It all comes back to that one simple rule.
So there you have it. It's not a bunch of rules. It's one rule. The difference between countable and uncountable. That's the key. So try it out right now. Just look around the room you're in. How many countable things can you spot? The more you practice thinking this way, the more it just becomes second nature.